Good evening, everybody. How are we today? Who are we today? Where are we today? Thursday the 9th of July. Wow. What a day. It's a busy day. 3 classes for me. Morning, afternoon and evening. So please say hello to me. Because that would be nice. Get me birds out. Right, it's only a 2-hour class today. Lots to talk about and lots to... Hello, Jenny. I know, it's grotty, isn't it? It's actually cleared up here a little bit now. But it's vile. Hello, Nick. Let me just jump onto Discord. Oh, it would help if I got the right phone out. Oh, you can see my day hasn't got any better since this morning. Right, now I'm here, I think. Evening. So it's Thursday evening and I'm live on the Thursday evening group. And we're doing sweet peas, yes? Oh, thank goodness for that. I don't know. I honestly don't know what's going on with me. So this is a bit of a mixture on colour mixing and sort of we are going to do sweet peas as well, but you can just about see I've divided the page in half ish. So I'm landscape. Left half will be about our colour mixes and purples. Right half will be a little bit of a sweet pea thing. Hello Celia. How are we? It's your first lesson, isn't it? I've got to be gentle with you. So we'll talk about colours. And if you haven't got the colours that I'm talking about, don't worry. Just don't worry for tonight. It's kind of interesting that what we'll be talking about anyway. Because purples and greens are really important. But tonight we're all about the purples. So there's 4 of you. I'll wait till 5 past, just in case we've got anybody else joining us. Oh, jam. Just trying to get Jan on. Jan's new. She's not new to the class, but she's new to the Facebook. Well, we'll see how we go then, Celia. Hello, Alison. We're just trying to set one more person up, and then we'll go for it. But I don't want anyone to miss out, so it's only, and I'm sure you wouldn't either. So we'll see what we can do. Yeah, that's fine, Jenny. I know you've got your Zoom thing in a bit, haven't you? I've locked the front door. Bum. I'm just fiddling. Sorry, I'm still trying to get it's Thursday, isn't it? Excuse my arms. My internet's really bad tonight. I'm trying to be super speedy. What's that? Oh. That's a lot. No, not bad at all. No, that's a lot of money. Alison, I don't know. You need some space on it for colour mixing. Because it's the colour mixing that's the important bit tonight. And the flowers are sort of like an incidental bit. Yeah, so the left hand side of the picture today is going to be actual colour mixes that you'll be able to refer to as a colour chart. The right hand side will be the flowers. So it'll be putting it together. So then it's sort of like, how did I get those purples? That kind of thing. Right, so I'm going to try not to be very sciencey with you. However, colour mixing is actually about physics and psychology, which sounds a bit heavy. However, the way I'm teaching you, it's been around since the 1980s. However, it's only just starting to be used in mainstream education very vaguely. Sometimes it's called the split primary system, and sometimes it's called the colour bias system. So basically, I'll break it down. Do you know what I should have? Let me just get some tubes of paint so I can put them out here and show you. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-bum. okay. I'm going to get... So here I have some tubes of paint that you'll be able to see. Oh, excellent. So, do you know about colour and paint, which is slightly different to additive colour mixing? Sounds interesting. What is a photoscientist? It sounds exciting, whatever it is. Right, so I've wasted enough time. In terms of paint, obviously the way we see colour is different and it varies from person to person slightly. So we never fully know what anyone else sees. However, in terms of paint in any art shop or DIY store or anything where it involves paint. Ooh, that sounds interesting. Oh, excellent. All paint. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, designing coloured film. Ooh, so you know all this then, Alison? Don't correct me if I say it wrong. Just make me out to be amazing, will you? Hey. So all reds can be split into purple based. So crimson here is a purple based red, and cadmium red here is orange based. So we've got a purple based red and orange based red. So even some paints that call themselves primary red tend to be more like a magenta, which is a purple based. All blues can be split into two categories. Oh no, don't be silent. All blues can be split into two colour categories. They're either purple based, which is ultramarine in this instance, or green based, which is cerulean blue in this instance. Now, when I was trained under the School of Colour, which was by Michael Wilcox, created their School of Colour, and it's an international colour mixing theory, and he devised his book Blue and Yellow Don't Make Green in, I think, 1986, something like that. It's quite a scientific tome, and I'd had it on my shelf for a long time and I hated it because it's sciencey and I don't like science. However, one day I sat down and read it and I was blown away, and I didn't believe it. So I set out to disprove it, and I couldn't. And then from that moment on, I then decided to become a School of Colour tutor. And it blew my mind, and I wish I was taught this when I was at school, because it changed my career. Things made sense to me in terms of art. So it's a very basic principle that I'll be teaching you, but it works, and it works well. So here I have a purple based red and an orange based red, a purple based blue and a green based blue. So if you want a vibrant purple, it makes sense then to use the purple based red and the purple based blue, because both of them have purple in it. So a bright purple will be produced from a purple red and a purple blue. Let's try this. So here's let me squeeze out a little bit of crimson. Oh, that's a lot of, I think I'd squeeze this tube. Carmine is fine, yeah, absolutely. Carmine and crimson. Carmine is also purple based, as is magenta or permanent rose or rose madder. Yours will be more sweet pea coloured if you've got carmine. It'll possibly be a little bit more vibrant. So I'm going to go with a number 4 round brush. But any brush will do. And what I want to do is I'm going to dilute my crimson. Carmine works well. Magenta, it depends, whatever purple based red you have. And I'm going to here just go along, and while it's wet, I'm just going to create a nice caterpillar of crimson. Try and keep an even tone. Give my brush a bit of a clean and dilute the purple, the ultramarine rather, and start at the right hand side and let it gradually mix with the crimson. Let's do that again. Ultramarine right up to the crimson. So we've got crimson based purple. Let's put a little bit more crimson up that end. To an ultramarine base, but this is a bright purple. So what I'm going to write on here is bright purple, and if I put crimson this end, ultramarine this end, and that'll give us a vibrant purple, and it'll get more vibrant. So different purples are good for things. Now when I first started teaching a long time ago, I'd have my 3 favourite primary colours, and it would be, I think I used cadmium red, lemon yellow and ultramarine. And I would say to the grown-ups and then the children that I taught subsequently, or vice versa, right, so for this you'll need your blue and your red. Now I suggested those colours, but it doesn't mean that they would bring those colours. And if they'd got either a different blue or a different red, they'd get a different purple. And I'd just tut under my breath and think, you know, and I said, just add some more of the red or add some more of the blue. And no matter how much they tried, they wouldn't get the same purple. And I had no idea why until I read this book. It is well worth getting. The School of Colour is still going ahead. I think it's in Australia and America or Canada and all in the UK, and it does make a huge difference to how you paint. The hardest thing I think is the names of the paint, because they don't make any sense. So ultramarine is a purple based blue, yet the marine bit might make you think that it's green, but all it means is paint from across the sea, because traditionally ultramarine was lapis lazuli, and the pure lapis lazuli was found in the foothills of Afghanistan, and it's extremely expensive. In fact, we nearly had a tube of lapis lazuli oil paint, and I think it was about £80 just for the small tube, but it would have been nice to own. We did have some oil paint made of ruby, and that was around about the same price. So as you can see, as it's drying, it's going a nice vibrant purple, and it's very similar to some of that sweet pea colour. So that's a bright purple. If you want mid-tones of a colour, then you have 2 options the way we're working this evening. You can, you still need something purple based in it, because a mid-purple still has to represent purple. So you could keep the purple based red and use the green based blue. That's mix 1. Mix 2 is the purple based blue and the orange based red. Now the reason why is that one of those colour mixes, one's got a purple blue, one's got a purple red. So because both mixes have a colour in that reflects purple, it will be a mid-tone. So let's do the red for now. So let me squeeze out a bit of cerulean. I normally use phthalo blue, but the tube looks identical to ultramarine. The colour, it's very similar. It's a punchy green based blue, and because of that, it looks really dark on the label. So let me write mid purple 1 here. Excuse my writing today, but mid purple 1, and I'm going to do the same thing with the crimson. squiggly caterpillar. So you probably don't need to do any of this, Alison. You'll just be more interested in the painting of the sweet peas, I presume. Now, unfortunately, there are some art tutors that obviously they know their own colour mixes. So if you ask them how to mix certain colours, they may not have the answer. I'm not saying I'm amazing. We know that that's the case. But, you know, that there are some times when it's... most artists will know what they know from experience, but they won't necessarily know how or why. But once you understand the science of colour mixing, it makes more sense. And you can look at colours. So I can look at a photo and I can restrict the amount of colours needed to create a picture, and create a sense of harmony. So I'm going with the green blue, the cerulean blue this time, and I'm going to start that at this end and mix it into the crimson. Always clean your brushes when you go in. Now, the interesting thing is no matter how much I mix these two colours together, I am never, ever, ever going to get that mixture up above. Scientifically, I can't, because one of these colours has changed and is green based. Obviously, towards the crimson end, they're going to look very similar. But as you head towards the blue side, it changes totally. Crimson and Cerulean. Sometimes that's also spelt differently. And also, because we're just using two colours, it makes life a lot easier. When you start adding a third colour, that's when mud happens. And we don't want mud. We'll try and keep it crisp and clear in our colour mixes. So hopefully it will start to make a little bit more sense to you. I have got colour mixing videos available on our online shop. They're 3 half-an-hour-ish long videos, and they're on offer for £4 each. And they're through a closed YouTube link, but you have unlimited access to it, should you wish to take a further look. So we've got one on mixing purples, greens and oranges, one on mixing browns and greys and useful colours, and one on colour harmony and contrast. Very basic, bite-sized stuff, just to help you build up your confidence with colour. And well, it's practice, isn't it? I think that's the thing. The more you're using it, the more it makes sense. What I advise is that if you've got tubes of paint, is put a little sticker on the crimson and write purple red. Put a sticker on the ultramarine and write purple blue. Put a sticker on the cerulean or the phthalo blue and write green blue. And put a sticker on the cadmium red and write orange red, because it makes a huge difference. I love the mix that the crimson and the cerulean makes, and it's beautiful for skies. It's very rare that you get the crimson and ultramarine mix in a sky unless it's really dramatic, but generally we've got that. So we've got another mid purple, so let me write mid purple 2. Now, if you remember, if I move those out the way, the only colour that I haven't squeezed out yet is cadmium red. So I'm going to have to zoom out of the tile. So the whole tile is visible. There we go. And I'm going to squeeze out a bit of cadmium red, far end. Cadmium red is an orange-based red. So to keep a mid-purple, don't forget, we need to have one colour that has purple in, which is the ultramarine. So This time I'm going to put the red down first, the cadmium red. So I'm going to wet that in the same way and put that down, and you can see instantly how this is like a pillar box red, and it's much more vibrant and orangey than the crimson. Now clearly I am not a scientist, I am an artist. I am not like Da Vinci, but I've spent a long time with colour and I love it. It's a bit of an obsession. And as I say, this theory works for me really well, and the students that I've taught it find it really useful. So that's my orange red, but now I need to get that purple blue. So that's the ultramarine, the second colour that I've got on my tile. Let's make that runny. Start at the right hand side, and you'll see how different this purple is by introducing an orange based red. This is also a really good blue for skies, by the way. Clouds, sunsets, aubergines. It's perfect. But look how much darker it is. And of course, if you're lightening the colour, if you lighten any of these colours up and down, you know, if you lighten them or darken them, you've got a whole new range of colours. So I work on a palette of about 8 colours in total. 2 reds, 2 blues, 2 yellows, an earth tone, 2 earth tones, and sort of a Payne's grey as well. Payne's grey is optional, but it saves me a lot of time mixing it. I know I can mix it, so it saves a lot of paint as well. And with those 8, I know I can mix up to 2,000 to 3,000 colour combinations, which is immense. Right, let me write cad red here. And ultramarine. Now I have also got this more in depth as well in my book. That's also available on our online shop. I think it's £14 for my book. It's not just about colour mixing. It's got loads of stuff in drawing techniques. I wrote it a long time ago. It took me nearly 20 years to compile it. I should write another one, but I don't know if I've got another 20 years left. Books will have probably disappeared by that time. So yeah, I may do a new book, but for now that's the only one I've got, and it's available for £14, I think, on our online shop. Oh no, I have got a children's book, but I've got to write the second chapter of the Chronicles, but I've got to reread the first chapter because that was a long time ago when I wrote that as well. And I can't remember anything in it. I can't remember who any of the characters are, so I've got to read the whole book again to work out. I've got all my notes, so I know what the second book is going to be about, but I just haven't got the time at all at the moment. Right, so we've got a bright purple and 2 mid purples. So the bright purple works because we've got a purple based red and a purple based blue. Mid purple 1 works because one of our colours is purple based, which is the red in this case, and the blue is green based. Mid purple 2 works because we've got a purple based blue but an orange based red. So for dull purple, we'll call it dull purple rather than dark purple. This is the one that, if I can spell purple, surprises the most people, because you're using the blue and the red that don't have purple in, which is the orange based blue, the orange based red, and the green based blue. So here it's cadmium red and cerulean blue. Now what surprises people about this is that visibly on the palette, the cerulean blue is a bright blue and cadmium red is a bright red. So people would think, oh, well, I'll mix a bright purple out of that because a bright red and a bright blue makes a bright purple. No, it doesn't. In fact, you're lucky to make it purple at all, because of how the colours work. So let's go with the cadmium red here, and we'll do our little cadmium red caterpillar. My colours are all running into each other. Now, interestingly, cerulean blue and cadmium red are complementary colours. So side by side they make each other look more vibrant, but when they're mixed together they make each other look dull. So let's go with that cerulean blue. Let's really go for it. And no matter how much I mix these together, or how much I'm willing it to go anything other than grey, it's not going to, because neither the blue nor the red have purple in it. In fact, I've done snow scenes just in those two colours. They tend to be a little bit in more towards the blue side. And phthalo blue works in exactly the same way. I won't confuse you with that. Let me just stick with these four for now. But it's just much stronger and darker. But look at that. It always surprises me, and I know exactly what's going to happen. So that's cad red. And cerulean. Like that. So it'll take you some use to getting your head around this. Don't expect to grasp it all now. But you can see as the colours changing, and because watercolours dry 30% lighter than the colour you put them on, you can see how the colours are changing, but how varied they are in terms of tone. So we've got 4 different colours of purple and 4 different paint colours, but it's understanding which one is which. I mean, if you wanted to write another few notes to say that the crimson is a purple red, ultramarine is a purple blue, you could put that maybe underneath. Oh, if I could write purple red, yeah, I'm frightened to ask Alison. Just in case. But as I say, I know this works with me and for me. But if Alison has any other theories and things, I would love to know about it, because I do love colour. I just find it absolutely fascinating. I really do. Ah, okay. So you're more CMYK. I've never taught a class using CMYK. I've always gone with the traditional old-fashioned colours. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, magenta with a bit of the yellow. So I suppose using this method, it would take, just using this method, using the CMYK, it would take you a little bit longer to get to a mix, because I'd need to make the cadmium red first, then add the cyan, wouldn't it be, in the CMYK? Cool. What an amazing job you have. Exciting. So as you look at the flowers of the reference photo, what colours can you see more reflected in that? You know, if you look at more the pinky side of the flower, is it more of a purple based red or an orange based red? Are the blues there more of a purple based blue or a green based blue? So just have a think about that for a minute. And we'll sketch it all out. And start painting. So it's helpful. So just look over the mixes that we've done for a few minutes, just to run it through in your head. That, you know, crimson is a purple red, cadmium red is an orange red, cerulean blue is a green blue, ultramarine is a purple blue, and how we've got those mixes. So for a bright purple, you want a purple red. Absolutely, watercolour is amazing for that kind of stuff. Especially with colours that are staining or granulating, and you get that lovely, you see here the cerulean and the cadmium red are granulating against each other, so you've got, one of my students calls it pixelating, because it kind of creates different colours in there. If you go on our shop now button on our Facebook page, Celia, you'll be able to get my book, which is it's got all the other art stuff in it and a breakdown of the Michael Wilcox teaching, or the main book that I was talking about that Michael Wilcox wrote is called Blue and Yellow Don't Make Green. It's fascinating, especially if you like colour. So it's good stuff. Okay, so let's start thinking about these flowers now and just getting a rough idea. We probably won't put a background in because that will be a bit too distracting, maybe. Because it's all about the purples. Let me move this tile just out of the way a second, because I can feel myself putting my hand in it if it's right in the way. So I'm going to put the petals in and the flowers in and stuff. We've actually got a few different colours going on in here. We've definitely got the crimson in the mix. Let me just pop this here because I've got a photo printout of it. So it's not too reflective. It should look all right. Thank you, Nick. Look at you, Speedy. So you can see here what I had a student used to do. She attended my full day colour mixing course. Oh gosh, about 9 years ago. And what she would do is we used to create our own colour charts. So she would then hover her colour chart over her painting that she wanted to reproduce and make a note of all the colour mixes. So here you can definitely see that these flowers are more the cerulean side, yeah, mad, isn't it? Yeah, and this is a high vision 4K technology camera. Mad, isn't it? So this is, but also this is what my photocopier is mixing from that reference photo. So we're looking at the original reference photo. The real photo is on the screen there. Then now we're looking at a colour photocopy of that, but we're looking at it through a camera, which can alter the colours. So there's a lot of variables in this that makes a difference. It's come out a lot more pink than the reference photo, that's for sure. But what I'm looking at here, what you're looking at here, is very similar to what I'm looking at in front of me, which is not like the reference image as much, but for this purpose it shouldn't matter that much. So you can see here that these petals are very much in the cerulean end, and all of the pinky petals are in the crimson end, so we can discredit cadmium red for this. But then when we start looking at the other petals, they are far more ultramarine and crimson. So in that sense then we have three colours that we need. Crimson is our main colour, and ultramarine and cerulean. We will need a lemon yellow. I'm not going to talk about greens really, but just trust me, we need a lemon yellow for this one today, just to give us some stems. We're not going to worry about the background, excuse me, but we do need a few stems and buds and things, so I'll need to squeeze the lemon yellow out later. So we'll keep it quite simplified really, and smaller. So I'm just going to sketch out the flower shapes really. Let me start down here. I'm going to do it much heavier than you will need to. And I am going to do the curled petals because it is quite fun. Because the top parts curl in and over itself, but it will. I'm doing this very loosely, and I'll erase, if I can find where I put my rubber, I'll erase the lines that I don't need. It's almost like two Mickey Mouse ears. And the curves are just almost triangular. Soft triangular or cake slices, or if you like, playing, what was that game with the wedges? No, you had either cheese or wedges. The questions board game, and you all had a Trivial Pursuit. That's it. My brain is. I told you my brain stopped working this week. really need to make sure I don't have nightmares again tonight to keep me awake. I've got zombies going on and all sorts yesterday. It's horrible. Let's move that down there. A little bit of the stem. But it's nice news that the tattoo studio that shares the same building can open on Monday. He's been desperate for reopening. And performers can now sing outside and do musicals outside, which is good for me as well. So maybe I'll get some work again, who knows. I'm just going to nip and get my eraser. I've just spotted it the other side of the room. Oh, I'll get the lemon yellow while I'm up. I used to love Trivial Pursuit. I live on my own, so there's no really point in playing a board game because I'll still probably lose. That's that first one. And there are other clusters behind, so I don't want to make it really hard for you, because obviously for some of you the whole colour mixing thing is scary enough. But it is essential. Painting really is the right colour in the right shape in the right place. And these sweet peas are very flourishy. You what? Is that you? What did I say? I said these flowers are very flourishy. They're like crimpled on this side. So whether I do it that severe, I don't know. But it's just more of a wobbly brush, a wobbly pencil. More fluted. In fact, let me put my palette one over this so then you can see it in a little bit more detail. I haven't grown sweet peas for such a long time. I used to have them in my old garden up against a trellis, and with some stocks as well. They smell beautiful, stocks. We haven't got Sarah with us tonight, have we? Maybe she forgot. And then we've got a bit more. I'm not. Basically, I think 8 o'clock. If we can get these roughly sketched out by 8, then we can play with the colour for the rest of the time then. I've already changed how this looks. It's just an idea. Yeah, well, it doesn't matter technically. No, I've moved this one across a little bit. Too excited. Do you love your job, Alison? I bet you do, don't you? It sounds like you do. I might not put all of these flowers on. It's just to give us the idea of the colour mixing in practice. What was the reason for it all finishing? People printing their own stuff, or people relying more digitally? Bit of a stem down here, isn't there? Let's go right the way down for that. This is in the wrong place in relation to the picture as well, but that's okay. Because the Impressionists, yeah, digital. It's a shame. Might all come back though one day, so we'll need people with brains like yours. But yeah, the Impressionists were really influenced by what was it? Michel Eugene. Was it? Who did the colour theory back in the 1850s? Something like that. Which was good for Seurat and all of the neo-impressionists as well, to experiment with colour. I'll just put one of these here now. Oh, have you? That's alright. Speedy. Okay. That's alright. That's alright. Yeah, but you see, retro things are good, aren't they? It is all back, because I do vintage singing in my spare time. And that's all back. Everybody loves the good old Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin number. So it's amazing how things tend to come back. I'm not drawing that one that's in there. It was, wasn't it? Pointillism, fascinating. I know, Michel Eugene Chevreau. Michel Eugene Chevreau. That's who it was. I knew the name wasn't right when I said it. Right, if you want to quickly grab a drink, now is your chance. You may already have one with you, and if so, you are lucky. I don't know. I might put the one up here. Just one. Oh, lovely, Jenny. I look forward to seeing what you do. Enjoy your yoga. It just gives us an idea. I'll give you a minute or so to finish drawing and also to grab a drink. Let's get these paints back. We blob a bit of lemon yellow here now as well. I might even manage to talk about glazing to you as well tonight. So we've got the rough idea of the flowers. What I am going to do, now you've seen my drawing, what I'm going to do is just use my putty eraser just to dab off the excess graphite, so it's going to look a lot paler to you, but what that means is it's not going to stand out in terms of a painting for me until I put the colour on. So the colour will be the main part of this. I love a putty eraser, they're brilliant. Mine's getting a bit past it. This is a lot softer. I mean, technically, you can mix colours without mixing them. I mean, we've actually mixed the colours here, but if you think of watercolours like quality street wrappers, I used to have a whole set of quality street wrappers, so I could show. I don't think I've got them anymore. But you know, because they're transparent layers, if you put a toffee penny, if you unwrap a toffee penny and hold it up to the light, and then put the coconut over the top, which is the blue wrapper, you would get green. Obviously those two colours don't mix together, but optically they make green. And you can do exactly the same thing with watercolour. I don't know if that's a step too far today, so I'm just putting it out there that you are able to do. I may do a video on glazing at some point. It's just finding the time now, because we've gone classes online and the shop's also online and real life, and I'm one member of staff short. It's a little difficult to get spare time to do stuff, and the classroom is still like a bomb site because we're not reopening the classroom this year. Because of the safety around COVID and everything, and it's such a small space, but I've had to dump a load of stuff up here, and every time I think I've made headway, there's just another load of stuff up here, so it's just an absolute bomb site. Never mind. Right, so let's mix a few other colours together. So if we stick to the middle flower strand, they are mixes of the crimson and the ultramarine. We'll do the paler ones, the pinkier ones first. So let's pull out a little bit of crimson, and to that I want to add a very small amount of the ultramarine. So it's still in the realms of pink. Now if I was using carmine, that would give me a more vibrant pinky colour. I should be using a bigger brush really, but I think this should help. Maybe I think I need to go a bit more pink with that. That's better. I've painted the wrong flower. Never mind. That bit's pink there. Looking at the wrong one. I'd forgotten I hadn't done that top one. I said my brain's not working today. But I'm actually going to put in all of the colours that are this colour first. So that should help me immensely. You can make your watercolours granulate on purpose as well, because Winsor & Newton have got a granulation medium and it's wonderful. And it just enhances the granulation side of things. So all the pinky bits I'm going to do first. What you can do if you wanted to, if you can see areas that are slightly bluer, you can drop it in while it's damp. So if there's an edge that's a little bit more blue, as it's drying, you can pop that in. And while it's damp, it sort of helps spread and create some interesting things. Oh, that's why it's quiet. Bird song's gone off. Well, hopefully you're finding this evening useful. As both flowers and purples. Let's go back in with the crimsony colour because there's another bit down here. This is almost neat crimson, really. There is a hint of it just up here as well, so let's pop that in. I mean, technically we could glaze a lot of these colours, but I won't. But I might put the lighter edges in. While I've got them. Just let that dry for a minute. as well add, so I'm going with the crimson and a tiny bit more ultramarine to start with, and I might add, oh, let's do this one, I might add more blue as it's damp. So if I do each part of the petal first and then go in with a bit more of the blue, I can sort of start bringing out the purpleness of it. Because what you want to do is to try and create the softness of the flower, but equally you want the, ooh, that's a bit blue, I didn't mix my colour properly. Equally you want to create the transparency. You need a bit more red in there. Blimey. I've got to say ultramarine is my favourite colour. One of my favourite colours. I'm trying not to let the colours all run into each other, so it's good to do a little section at a time. And maybe even move on to another area. Now I can tell you about glazing because I painted that pink and it should have been purple. So if I glaze ultramarine over the top of this, so a glaze is a transparent wash of colour over another area of colour, and you can see how that's made a lovely purple, and I've not actually had to mix the purple. So that's got to dry. Let's work on this bit. So I'm flitting about because I want each area to dry before I move on to the next area, and that should hopefully stop the colours from running as much. But if you're using squeezed out paint, I normally use a pan, but for the colour mixing purposes tonight I'm using squeezed colour. But what that means is that I might end up with a lump of it on my brush if I don't mix it thoroughly first. So it is important to really go with your mix and make sure it is mixed carefully and thoroughly beforehand. It's taking forever to dry. Yeah, I can see how some of them are quite shiny still. wet, but that's all right. We can cope with this. So if you wanted to do any extra shading in the pinkier petals, to add a tiny little bit of blue to your pink, you can sort of come in with extra folds. To make it feel like it's curved and curled. But you want to keep it more to the pink if it's in a pink area, and more to the blue if it's in a blue area. But try not to touch the other bits, because it will just all run, and we want to try and keep it not photographic at all, but we do want to keep it feeling a little bit like actual sweet peas. If you get hard edges, all you need to do is use a clean brush, a clean damp brush, and that will soften places and blend it out. But you do need to work quickly, because otherwise it will lift off the other colour. So it just depends what you're after, what you're trying to create. And don't forget, if this is your first lesson, this video will stay in this group forever. However, if you're only here for this one lesson and you don't think you're going to do any more, then what we do is ask kindly if you would leave the group before the next lesson starts. So you've got a month to watch this video as many times as you want, although for a £5 you might just want to stay in every month. It's less than £60 for the whole year. Right, things are starting to dry a little bit, so let's go in with a pinkier colour here. It's sort of all about contrast, really. So where I've got a purple line, I might use a pink line. But that hasn't dried yet properly. And it might cauliflower. I do enjoy cauliflower. But where I want it so cauliflowering is when the colours sort of disperse the water and they push it further out, so it stops being a constant colour. It is quite fun though. Go in here a little bit more. Too much blue, you see, I'm there telling you, make sure you make the colour wetter to stop you from using pure blue in there in the mix. And then what do? Do exactly what I've said is best not to do. So we don't need a shadow colour with this necessarily, we just need to add different tones on the top. And if you wanted to make it a little bit more vibrant, you could just put glazes of crimson over certain areas as well. It will, as we said, depend on the colour, but I could add a little bit of a glaze of the crimson over here, so it just strengthens some of the pinkier tones. Don't underestimate a good glaze. It really does work. Because you can't always tell or see what colour it's going to go until it dries. So it's a really good way of working it. But let the paint sort of take itself and do extra bits of tone and colour. You'll be surprised what you can come up with. That little bit to do, then we can look at the crimson and the cerulean mixes. I mean, you could even glaze a bit of cerulean on some of these if you wanted to match it up, but you do need to make sure your colours are dry. A little bit more of the blue stuff down here. I like working wet in wet, it's quite fun. So while that's drying, I'm going to put the crimson part in of all of the other crimson bits. Just makes it a lot easier. Let me make sure I've got a nice bit of crimson going on. If you did make a drink, don't forget to drink it, because it'll be cold. This is just crimson. And we can add other glazes and tones to it afterwards if we need to. And even on this side, this is still more ultramarine on this side, but I'm going to put it on because it's still crimson based. So different reds, even different purple based reds, will give you a very different result. So carmine would give you a much truer colour of the sweet peas, because it's more of a pinky version of the crimson. In my pans of watercolour, I normally have carmine in it, so mine would have been different. I'll show you the difference on my palette just so you can see. So carmine is a purple based red, but it's a lot pinkier compared to the crimson. So if I put a little glaze of that on one of these, you can see how it will change the tone. If I put it on one that I've already done. Glazing is fun anyway, but it is interesting when it comes to carmine versus crimson versus magenta versus rose madder. Oh, opera rose is beautiful, Alison. Yes, that's perfect. Opera rose is a nice punchy punchy purple red. It's a gorgeous colour. My camera's making the crimson look like cadmium red tonight on my camera, but it isn't. So that just needs to dry for a sec, and then I'll go with the cerulean blue with a little bit of crimson, and I'll plop all of that in, and then I'll probably darken it later on. Not that there's a huge amount of later on left. Oh, that's dry, so I'll go in now. Let's get lots of cerulean and a tiny weeny bit of crimson to pop that in. Nearly did those leaves then. That won't be any good. So I can still see my lines underneath. So I roughly know where the petal folds are. I did say if you wanted to, you could add a little bit of the cerulean onto your other blues. If you build it up too much, it looks a bit weird, but just saying. Now there's not a huge amount of the blue in the petals either in this. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you will create tonight. I can show you about lifting out highlights as well in a bit, so it'll all help get the semi-realism. Again, we're not after total realism because it's a painting, isn't it? We're more after understanding how colours work and attempting something that vaguely looks like sweet peas. We've got about half an hour left. And then sort of a bit more of the crimson in with the cerulean to get your darker parts of the still want it to be more cerulean than the crimson, just so it helps. But again, I will talk to you about lifting out in a bit. If we got hours and hours and hours and hours, I would be doing the veins on the petals and all of that kind of thing, but we'll be here till 10 o'clock if we did that. And as I say, tonight's main aim was the colour mixing side of things. Now the centres of these two are more cerulean as well. Maybe I'll put a tiny bit of ultramarine in there to mix it up a bit, but the petals, the outer petals, are more ultramarine glazed, so this is a bit of a mixture between the two. When you mix ultramarine and cerulean together in equal quantities, you get something that resembles cobalt blue, which is a nice colour. Used a lot for skies. I don't use it because I can mix ultramarine and cerulean together, or cyanide blue together, to get that sort of mixture. But I was just saying you can. Right, what I will do while that's drying, if I go with an ultramarine glaze, top of this one. Maybe a bit more blue around the edges of the petals. Don't forget, tonight is about mixing. And I'll keep saying it because I know it's very easy for us to start falling into the trap of berating ourselves for everything. And we need to add the greens and other stuff in the last 15-20 minutes. which will help. But lifting out is a really, really useful device of creating highlights in watercolour, which is more subtle, but it does mean you can sort of use a clean damp brush. And because I've used crimson, it's doesn't really stain that much, so I can get back to a lighter paper tone fairly quickly. So this is just a clean damp brush that I'm working on. To lift out highlights. I do like a nice highlight. It helps with it, the softness and the transparency. If it doesn't lift out straight away, the good plan is to soften it with a bit of water and then go back in with a clean damp brush afterwards. Good way of doing fabric and folds as well. Starts making things look a little bit more realistic, a little bit more three-dimensional. Think of light against dark, so where you've got a dark edge, lift out a lighter edge. It may not be exactly like the photograph, but it will really help you. Clean damp brush, but what I'm doing, you may not have noticed it because you're probably concentrating really hard on your own piece, is that between each bit that I'm doing, you can probably hear me cleaning the brush. If it's all part of the same pink areas, then it doesn't matter so much. It is easy to get carried away with this though, so just be careful, because before you know it, you could be almost back to white paper again. And don't forget, you can watch this video back if you're struggling to keep up. I'm constrained by time. You won't be, so you can watch this back again. I've forgotten to darken inside those other bits, didn't I? It really is so lovely to lift out. It is a bit of a knack. As everything is, isn't it, we're finding? Everything's a bit of a knack. But worth persevering with. If your brush is too wet, just go clean it. Dry it off. Don't forget you might need to work over certain areas a few times to lift out the colour to get it the tone that you want. These are much darker flowers. Ultramarine wash over these because it's gone a bit pink. So it's really fun to just play around and see what each colour would do. So do not despair. That's the point I'm trying to make. And the green will sort of like hold it all together. That's the theory. Very nice, Nick. Wow. You're not? What? Using a gel pen? Well, that's alright. If it gives you the effect that you're happy with, then that is good. Yeah, it is. It is really tricky. With a small area, I mean, I've learned over the years if I've got sort of my thin brush, I can lift out really thin, small areas, but it does take a while to work out how much pressure to add to lift it off, and you see you can, with like this number 4 round brush, you can lift out a thin line, but the way I do it is that I will paint the water on with a thin line and then dab it off with some kitchen roll or something afterwards, so then I'm not having to change the pressure of the brush. Well, as long as they don't say sweet peas, when you sell it, you'll be all right. They're just representing flowers that are purple, so they're just purple flowers today. Only we know that it's sweet peas. So I'm gonna, now in our last 5 minutes, I need to mix a green, just a green, from the lemon yellow and the ultramarine. The lemon yellow is a greeny yellow, and as I said, the ultramarine is a purpley yellow, so it gives us a decent mid-green, whereas it would be a little bit acidic, and I don't really want to go fully acidic if we use the cerulean. If I put a bit of cerulean in, just to go a little bit brighter, but if I went too cerulean-like, I think it would be a bit scary. So I have got a little bit of cerulean in here. Yeah, so lemon yellow, a little bit of ultramarine, a little bit of cerulean. Just see, that happened to me earlier with the blob. I'm adding a few extra bits while I've got the colour on here. Mm. Oh yeah. Yeah, you have to. Yeah, it is. With the tubes, you really do have to sort of work it through a lot more than with the pans. You see, you do with a pan of watercolour. You're already working it through with your brush, aren't you? Because you're massaging the bristles into the paint. Whereas with a tube, you're not doing that. So it means that you have got to work a little bit more with it. But it can be done. It can certainly be done. So again, I can lift off the highlights of this, and then that should take us up to our time. and I'll let you know what's in store for you next month. Although sometimes I shouldn't do that, should I? Because it might put you off. You might all be poorly that day. I remember when I used to teach in primary ed, and it used to be more, I think it was when I used to support numeracy, and there was a tricky bit that came up, the amount of hands that would go up because they all suddenly needed the toilet so desperately, to avoid actually doing any of the work, of course. So you used to go, yes, Grishka, we'll wait. And then suddenly they didn't need to go anymore. Mainly the boys, I have to say, of course. No. Yeah, it is. It's secondary school. It's the girls and boys. At primary, girls are a little bit more sensible and boys are silly. And girls would never do what the smelly boys do. Yeah. So we've kind of got the feel. We've got the essence. It's all about the essence today, isn't it? Essence is key today. But have you enjoyed it? Different, at least different. Excuse me. So next month, gosh, August. Ooh, we're doing stormy, wetting, wet clouds. Now that's going to be amazingly fun. So you want a nice big sloppy brush for that. Really good. Oh, that gel pen works, Nick. The gel pen you've put on works really nicely. Yeah. So yeah, what Nick's done is he's used a bit of white gel pen on here. So he's just sent me a picture of it so I could see, instead of the lifting out, and it just defines some finer edges. So you could do that when it's dry with the green, because the green has got a halo of white around it in places, hasn't it? So it would work quite nicely with that. If I quickly hair dry it, I'll show you, because you know I like to give you your money's worth. Yeah, it works nicely on the green, because looking at the this top area. Oh, I'm glad, Celia. Was this your first class, Celia, or have you done others? Because sometimes I am a bit pushier. I've tried to be nice today. I'm not quite sure it suits me, but I've tried. I haven't gone into Basil Fawlty mode once tonight. That's pretty impressive. There it is. Because you basically you want subtle, and you want really fine edges, so it does. I mean, this isn't a pure watercolour now. I've played with a bit of pen, but as long as it gives you the results that you want, it doesn't matter. Oh, good. You've picked a nice one, Celia. But all of our classes are step by step. Exactly the same as this is. Sometimes they are a faster pace. I can't pretend otherwise. But it's all with me, so you've got the amazing personality to deal with. Oh dear. But yeah, it's. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. I really am. Right, I'm fiddling. I'm not going to do any more. Past time anyway. Not that I am a strict person to it, but I don't think I can do any more without. If I start fiddling too much, I'm going to end up ruining it. It really is lovely to have you back. It's not an awful attempt. It's really, really lovely. I love the technique you've got in your petals that you sent me. It's really nice. And it's lovely to have you back. For this month, you have Celia. You might as well. By the way, if you are new, these online classes are new to us in the sense that we're doing them all the time while our classroom's closed, but we are going to continue with them. So the online classes, because our classroom will stay closed the rest of this year, but because it's a tiny, tiny space, those our regulars can confirm how tiny it is, and to try and be in keeping with governmental guidelines, it's pretty impossible because we've got a very narrow corridor because it's an old Victorian building or older. A narrow corridor, narrow stairs. We can't even entertain social distance in here. So the classroom will stay closed for the rest of this year. However, beyond that, these online classes are going to stay forever because we're finding we can reach so many people from all over the world now, and it's great, and I love it. So we're definitely not stopping them. So if you're not local to Banbury, it doesn't matter anymore. You can join us live whenever, and it's lovely to have your company. So I'm going to say good night tonight, and we've got loads of other stuff. I'll quickly run through what we are going through this week. If you've been to a class this morning or this afternoon or during this week, you'll have heard it all before. But tomorrow afternoon is watercolours, and we are doing Glenatee Waterfall, fast and loose watercolour painting. Saturday morning is calligraphy, and we're doing basic italics and flourished italics. Sunday morning is Broadway Tower in watercolour. Monday morning is a woman walking her dog on the beach in watercolour, and that's a 45-minute demo. Monday evening is a moonlit scene with hot air balloons, actually, by moonlight. Beautiful. Tuesday afternoon is the acrylics class, and that is also a different moonlit scene over a bay. Tuesday evening is acrylics this week. It was drawing last week of a rusty boat. This week it's the acrylics version of a rusty boat. The drawing class this Wednesday is the vintage car in a country lane. Art for the Anxious Thursday morning are hands in charcoal. Thursday afternoon watercolour is a ramble on the Thames Path, and Thursday evening is an art history lecture on Discord on Bauhaus. So lots to go on for the rest of this week. Oh, all right. It didn't go as dark as I wanted it to go, and the camera's bleached all of my. When I take a photograph of the hot air balloon one, I'll show you the hot air balloon. I'll just put it on the screen now. It's turned all my blues cream, and even fiddling with it stops it from looking blue and grey, which is quite annoying. So I'm gonna have to try and take another photograph of it in the daylight, and. I mean, I've got a white light over it, but it still looks totally different when I've posted it in the group. Can you see it? Oh, I've only just seen it. I've got a massive delay, and I'm in the same room as myself. Isn't that funny? So that's what we were doing. That's what we're doing on Monday night. This one here. Okay, so I'm gonna head off home. Well, I'm gonna wash up and then head home. Hopefully, I'll be home before 10 o'clock. So take care, have a lovely week. Thank you so much for your company, and I will see you all soon. Bye bye. Bye bye, everybody. Take care.